Ooh, live from the apocalypse. Welcome to State of the Game. And I am the Mark Jackson of hip hop blogs, Dan-O, my co-host, the Jeff Van Gundy
Yeah.
of this hip hop commentary, K Diggy. Welcome, K Diggy.
Hey.
It's all is right in the world. The Sixers just beat the Washington Wizards. Embiid has a feathery jump shot. It is just soft netting every time. It's good. It's good for me. I'm ignoring the rest. So there's no problems. Sixers have no problems. Don't worry about it. So I wanted to get back on the horse here because last week it was Taylor Swift. I was in an icky space here. People were surprised that I was doing this. So I wanted to get back to my comfort zone. Mello Music Group. I want to do a full 2020 investigation. And I'm glad we're doing this because I've always felt like Mello Music Group specializes in a kind of music that you would really like. That is close to what you're into. There's always a point, if it's somebody like Young Thug or if it's somebody who's a little weirder out there, where you will say something to the effect of, it was a bit much for me, right? The Chris Crack thing, like, it was a bit much for me. Like somebody gets way out of pocket, you know?
It's my go-to phrase, yeah.
And MMG is in that pocket. Mello Music Group stays in their pocket, and they do what they do. And I wanted to talk about 2020 is not their biggest year by any means.
Really?
No. But that's kind of what makes it special to me, is that this is not their biggest year, and they're still all over hip-hop conversation. They're still everywhere.
When you say the biggest, do you mean like most albums released? Do you mean like most albums that had prestige garnered on them? Like, what do you mean by biggest?
Yeah, I mean, as an example, was it 2017 when Open Mike Eagle dropped Brick Body Kids Still Daydream?
Oh, see, 2017 or 2018? I feel like it was 2018, but it could have been.
It lined up with Damn. I remember that it lined up with Damn. It was the same year Damn came out.
Yeah, that'd be 2017 then, yeah.
So yeah, 2017, like, to me that was an album of the year contender, right? That's like Open Mike Eagle had like 3 years in a row where he was releasing album of the year contenders. Those were all on on Mello Music. And that's just not to speak of any of the historic like collaborations they've had with Kool Keith or other people like that in the past. So it's but this has been an interesting year for them. And let me read off what has been released this year. To be clear, in 2 days they released another album.
Wow.
It's called Marlowe 2. Marlowe is a collective consisting of L'Orange, who we will definitely talk about, and Solemn Brigham. They released an album last year, the year before. Yeah, 2018. And it was good. It was kind of a rough sketch. L'Orange's stuff is much more polished. Solemn is kind of getting into his flow, so definitely possible that it'll be great. But let me go ahead. Let me see if I can share my screen and look at what Maybach Music's done this year. Oh, not Maybach Music.
Mello.
That MMG is going to mess me.
MMG.
The whole thing. Okay. So you're seeing it. Marlowe 2 is coming out in 2 days. As God Intended, Apollo Brown and Shay Noir. LSD, Lunar Solar Duality, Kambata. Your Birthday's Canceled by Iron Wigs. I'll tell you why I didn't Put that on our list. Milestones by Skyzoo. Hard by Joel Ortiz and King Crooked. Uh, Eloquent, Forever is a Pretty Long Time. That's a single. Innocent Country 2, Cal Chris and Chris Keys. Black Soul, Take Your Time. Dueling Experts. And the one, if I could have traded out anything, I probably would have put Kier Leon in this. Cy Spiritual and The Lasso. The Lasso is really, really weird production-wise. And it's pretty cool. And Cy Spiritual is like rapping in Spanish, and he's from the West Coast. It's kind of cool. It was a really interesting album. I'll have to come back to it. But so we picked 5 of those because we couldn't rate all of them. We wanted to rate 5 of the hand selected joints. So how was your experience doing the listening?
Oh, it was good. It's very enjoyable. I mean, I had of the 5 we listened to, some of the albums were more my style than others, but all in all, like, there were no albums where I had to skip any songs. There were no albums where I had, this is a too much for me moment. It was just a pretty enjoyable listen all around.
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting. So you want to get into the business of how they work and how labels work?
Yeah.
Or do you want to get into the albums first? What do you want to do first?
Oh no, let's go into the business. Let's do business first.
And very interesting because, I mean, hip hop started wildly independent, right? And then got snatched up by major labels. And the problem with that was, and I'm reading Nate Patron's book, Bring That Beat Back, and it's kind of about all these characters being innovative and then getting messed over, right? Like, so Prince Paul gets together with De La Soul. They make 3 Feet High and Rising. They make skits. It's really crazy. There's jokes. There's all these different things. And the label mismanages them from then on, right? They just don't know how to deal with this. They don't know how to sell it. You see that story over and over again with major artists of the 80s and 90s of like, the label didn't know what to do with them. And so then the independent labels rise up, right? The independent labels come in full force and start, pounding the pavement with music. And we've talked about Southern stuff, but it happened in New York as well. With like, I was listening to a podcast, Call Out Culture podcast, and they were talking about Raucous Records versus Def Jux Records, and what they thought. They actually had this guy. They have this guy named Alaska who's from Hangar 18. He was on Def Jux right at their prime with LP and all those guys. So, and they asked him what happened with the label sputtering out. What happened? What was the downfall of Def Jux, right? Because you go from being the tastemakers to shutting the doors, right? And Alaska said, we had all the time in the world to work on those first albums. So everybody's first album was smashing, right? Classic. But then you get this fan base and they need more. And there starts to be deadlines. And now you're cranking stuff out and it's just not at the same level.
Right.
And once your fans are detecting that, all the indie labels that I loved, they all had duds, man. Big duds. And a big dud really hurts an indie label.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, like, the shirt I'm wearing today is
that Killer Cam?
in salute to Think About Dipset, man. think about their run when they were big. They were big off mixtapes. Mixtapes
Yeah,
are no rules,
that's a
right?
good point.
So they were just rocking it. Beats, raps, boom, boom, talent,
Right.
style, swagger. When the business came into it, that's when everything fell apart.
Yeah.
And it's it's difficult, man. It's difficult because and Raucous, their undoing was kind of the opposite of the Def Jux in terms of they got their huge following and kind of lost their soul a bit.
Right.
They started chasing weird pop stuff and putting out stuff that wasn't what got them there,
Right.
and they just didn't know what to do with the spotlight, really, when it comes down to it. So there are independent labels that have continued through the years, like Stone's Throw.
Okay.
Stone's Throw is founded by DJ Shadow. It's where Madlib put out all his beat conductor mixes. But they've also had these big successes. Aloe Black, Stone's Throw.
Wow.
Yeah. Uh, Damn Funk, right? Stone's Throw. Uh, they've got an album, 7 Days of Funk, which is Damn Funk and Snoop. It's on Stone's Throw. Like
Wow.
they they've been able to maneuver Mayor Hawthorne, Stone's Throw. Like uh, because they started as this kind of DJ Shadow doing his deal, they were like, we're open to whatever R&B, rap, bring it all in,
Hmm.
and it's allowed them to be versatile throughout the years. But during this discussion on call out culture, Raucous um, versus Def Jux, Curly Castro brings up Mello Music. He says they do brand management. They manage their brand.
Okay. For the Mello Music brand.
Mello Music. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
They manage their brand, and that's what they've been doing over the years.
Hmm.
Within the context of Mello Music, what do you think brand management means?
Now, it's interesting because you say they manage their brand and not the artist brand. Because I think the albums that you mentioned that were released this year, it's pretty safe to say that the musicality is like the common thread, but they're all pretty wildly different artists. So I think managing your brand I think what they're doing is Mellow Music has a reputation. It's a reputation for quality. You know what I mean? Quality, musical, uh, musically based instead of, like beat, Fruity Loops or whatever, based music. You know what I mean? I can hear the musicality in all of those albums that we listen to. So I think brand management is you want to have quality control over whatever you release on the brand. On the label.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make sure that any album, regardless of what genre or what artist, adheres to a standard of quality.
Yeah, I think, uh, um, and they have a slogan that sounds beautiful like the truth.
Mm.
There's a sense of seriousness to what they're doing.
The craftsmanship, yes.
Comes through, man. There's a description on the Mellow Music page, which is intense. Let me read it. Like Lao Tzu and hip hop, Mello Music Group provides music for the soul, from the heart of American culture, opening the realm of the intelligent hip hop experience through melodic evocations, beats
Ooh,
that corroborate the truth, and
corroborate.
voices that roar above the rising void and impose order on the terrible and triumphant moments of everyday life. This is the compelling sound. of Mello Music Group.
Whoever wrote that, they must have done well on their SATs, man. There were a lot of SAT words in there.
Intense. That's intense. And I think it just sounds beautiful, like the truth just means we are taking this seriously.
Yeah.
Nothing on this is a joke.
Right.
When was the label 300? Do you remember that label?
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
That Leo Cohen.
Yeah. Yes.
Founded with his buddy after they got out of Def Jam, and you just instantly saw them snatching up artists that didn't represent anything but the demographic approval of that period and the streaming age.
Right.
Like they snatched up Fetty Wap, and he was doing interviews
Right.
about Fetty Wap as like a genius, and I'm like, all right, man, whatever, man. Like they, it's just like racking up catchy streaming numbers, loading albums,
Right.
26 tracks. Like, I'm not knocking him or whatever, although who cares if I am? Like, whatever,
Right.
Leonard Cohen's done bad stuff. I'm not making that up. But he's a business guy. That's what he's gonna do.
Right. Exactly.
He looked at it and he said, look, this is the business. And to be clear, I should have said this off top. I'm not critiquing Mello Music Group or any other label in terms of running a business. I don't know how to run a business. I've never run a business.
Mm-hmm.
But every independent label needs diehard fans that will ride for that label.
Right.
I've been that fan for several of these labels.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched them die. I've watched them lose their soul. I've watched them triumph over eras.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes me an authority, basically. My money has gone into their pockets. I've seen how it works. So I get to talk about it from that sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Fans get to boo at a game. They get to cheer at a game. Same deal. So
absolutely.
But anyway, they went with the other idea, which is, look, we're going to cut all the extra bullshit out and just focus on the music, right? The rap labels of the 90s saying stuff like, how would you even, like, how, I don't know how to sell this. MMG's like, what? Like, what do you mean? You just get the best production, you get the best album, you sell it everywhere you can.
All right.
That's it. Like,
right.
It's not complicated. You get videos going, you get stuff, and you put it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think MMG, from what I've noticed, I mean, their digital marketing and presence is impressive. They know what they're doing. Whether it's utilizing Bandcamp or streaming as well. Like, I was able to find any album that I was looking for off MMG, I was able to find on Apple Music. And so I think nowadays, you want to be an indie label or to be a major label, you have to have an understanding of the digital marketplace. And I think MMG they obviously have that, which allows them to, be successful in these times.
Yeah, and I sent you an interview he did back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Guy runs it. Really interesting stuff, man. Founding your label in Arizona is insane. Insane. Like, do you know how much business he's lost not being in LA?
Oh, I mean, I can only imagine. Yeah.
You know how many rappers that are shouting out their hoods are really living in LA? Like, a lot of and that's by the way, that's fine. I don't care where you live, but they could have done so much more business living in LA, but as he says, the cost. The
Yeah.
cost. So instead, he focuses on other markets, right?
Yeah.
Detroit artists, uh, you know, Kansas, different places.
Midwest. He said Midwest was his focus.
Yep.
Well, a focus. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a burgeoning scene out in
Yeah.
the Midwest. They're just people who didn't have a mechanism to put it out. And
Mm-hmm.
what really got me was when he started talking about how, because this is the old model, the legendary stories of Bad Boy Records, right?
Bad boy.
Biggie would be holed up in the studio, and he would have a bar, and the locks would come in, and he would be like, "What do you want?" And he'd start making them drinks, and they'd pour up, they'd smoke up, they'd have fun, and then they'd record a song.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "We don't do that. That's not a thing. Our artists, they wrote their stuff in the park at home. They come in when they're ready to record.
Yeah.
That's it, you know." Uh, and that really struck me. Like, wow, okay, so like, just cut the process down to what it needs to be, you know.
Well, the intention. I mean, there's a different. I mean, there's a different intention with an artist like a major label artist like Biggie or the Locks, and then like a mellow music artist. You know what I mean? Like a mellow music artist, I think, like they know that they're not going to be on. I mean, I don't know. I was gonna say be on MTV, but I guess MTV's not really popping nowadays.
No.
They know that they're not gonna get like that mainstream acclaim
Right.
that some of the other bigger artists. They know that they probably will be eating off of their streaming and their touring. And you're only able to really tour if you've got good music, you've got good material. So the focus for them, to me, it appears like the focus for people on Mello Music is the material so that they have something sturdy that they can tour on.
And I was gonna say, to build off your point very specifically, I think the focus is casting, right? So,
Okay.
being someone who's listened to 1,000 podcasts and a billion interviews, I know exactly what an actor is going to say when someone asks them, "What is it like to work with the Coen brothers?"
Mm-hmm.
They're going to sound confused, but they're going to say, "It was easy." They don't give you any notes. They just say, "That's fine."
Well,
The Coen brothers have a model, and that model is, we're going to write it to the exact degree. Everything's going to be on the page that we need to be on the page.
mm-hmm.
Then we're going to find the exact right people for this.
Mm.
But once we're done casting, those are the people we wanted. We got them for this. We trust them. We're going to let them rock.
Right.
We'll tell them when it's bad. We'll tell them when they need to do it again. But otherwise, they know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's all about casting.
Now,
So for
it's
all about casting.
Now tie that casting to Mello Music. How does Mello Music cast?
There's two experiences that made me want to dive into this. One is an interview with Apollo Brown on the Dad Bod Rap Pod that was very illuminating. Because they asked him, "So how is your relationship with Mello Music?" And he said, "Oh, it's great. I talk to the dude every day." I was like, "Every day?" Like, yeah, via text or phone, we talk every day. And I was really struck by that, man. And so it makes sense when Apollo Brown goes into the story of like, man, the first time I heard Chez Noir, I knew that's the one I want. Out of this whole clique, that's the one I want.
Mm.
Out of that whole Griselda, she's the Ross. I want that. I want to work with her. All he had to do to get that album made was let his boy know via text. Boom. Chez Noir is who I want to work with next. And they made it happen.
Yeah.
Casting, right? It's just casting. You're like, oh, that's a slam dunk. That makes sense.
And I mean, it's a two-way street as well, because the artist, not only does the director trust the actor, but the actor's got to trust the director as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, I can tell that there's a lot of respect both ways on this label.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's kind of got these. Odyssey used to be the big draw. Odyssey's a great producer, pretty good rapper, but right now it kind of splits into two camps. There's Apollo Brown on one side, and there's La Orange on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
They're both boom bap affiliated, but when somebody like Chez Noir comes on, she's going to work with Apollo Brown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sky Zoo comes on, he's going to work with Apollo Brown. Somebody like Cool Keith comes on, he's going to work with La Orange.
Mm-hmm.
La Orange is the one with the weird audio skits, cut up into different pieces, beats that switch, strange time signatures, strange song lengths. They're both doing excellent work. Two sides to a coin. So
Right.
those people can pull in who they want to pull in. I was going through the history of it. It's interesting, man. Did you know? So Verbal Kent, who's half of Dueling Experts, he was also on Iron Wigs. He was also in a group with Chris Orick, who's a big deal on their label, and Apollo Brown. They were called Ugly Heroes.
Wow.
So you just get these people together, put it out, and yeah. And
It sounds almost like a word of mouth. Like, one guy's like, yeah, I'm on this label. You should come over. All right. And they all, you could tell there's that, what's the word I want to use? That camaraderie on the label.
So think about it. And this is just to take some isolated cases in people we're dealing with here. Would Chez Noir, if she said, look, West Side Gun, you handle it, right? I'm gonna be a part of the collective. I'm gonna be put out, through Shady like you guys. How badly would Shady have botched it? Seriously, I'm not joking.
Yeah, when you're with a major label, it's the goals and intentions are different. Shady, they're looking to break an artist, get them into the mainstream. At whatever cost, get that hit on the radio, or get that streaming hit.
And if we're honest, like West Side Gun, if he was honest, he would have said to her at that point, maybe he did, look, we haven't gotten our numbers figured out.
Yeah.
We're not selling the way we should be selling. And we're in internal competition with each other all the time anyway. So
right.
It's
absolutely.
It's tough.
And when you're with a major label, you've got not only expectations with the shady name. I'm sure you've got overhead. I'm sure you've got A&Rs. I'm sure you've got people. People that basically you have to pay, mouths that need to be fed first. So that's why, the Mello Music, I'm sure they're a little bit more pared down than a major label. So there's less pressure, less expectations, and the focus really is on making the best project possible.
And Kelly Chris is another great example. How weird is that guy?
Yep.
What label knows what to do with him? There's no label that knows what to do with this dude. Like, he's too intelligent to be a swag rapper, but he's got too much damn swag to be a conscious rapper.
Right.
Straight up. He's not Lupe, bro. He's not. He's swagging too much for that.
And I would say, ideally, with an artist, a label wouldn't have to do anything with them. You know what I mean? They would just be able to
Put it
release.
out, right? Right.
Yeah, but if you're a major label, you've got to figure out, because they're an investment, you got to figure out how to get your investment back.
And yeah, so I think it's an interesting study on how to pull it together and spend time, make quality stuff, but wipe out your duds, right? So like, how many duds does A24 drop in a year? They're not known for their duds, right? I mean,
Right.
run a pretty tight ship, but they don't make a ton per year.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can have some duds as long as you have that one hit that overshadows the duds.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, all we remember are the W's. We don't really, most of the time, we don't remember the L's.
And I think what I would say about indie label life, because I think what you said applies more to major labels. Major labels don't care if they drop duds as long as they have the moneymakers at the top. HBO.
Okay,
Think of
fair point.
HBO when they had Game of Thrones and they were throwing whatever at the back end of it, like maybe some of this other stuff will stick.
Right.
With indie labels, I think it's more about your bottom, right? And I've tried to explain to people this about capitalism, that because you'll run into people who are business majors who say, "Why do we need to care about the poor?" Right? And I try to explain, even if you don't care about people and you're inhumane and you're awful, which, I mean, you're a business major. I got that, right? So you need to care about the poor people, because you are judged by how the least the people with the least are treated. If you are letting people die in the streets, that's what you're known for. You're not known for the land of opportunity. You're
Good point.
Right?
Good, very good point. Yeah.
So, in terms of an indie label, what is your worst stuff? How bad is your worst stuff? If it's still okay, and you're not throwing duds down, it makes it easier for your fan base to say, "Oh, well, that's great," and that's not even that bad.
It's a good point. Very good point.
So, starting with duds, let's start grading from worst to best.
Okay.
What would you pick out of the 5 we gave you as your?
And what were the let's, because I don't think the audience knows the 5. What were the 5 albums that we reviewed?
Dueling Experts, which is Recognize Ali and Verbal Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Black Soul, Take Your Time. Sky Zoo Milestones, it's an EP. Kelly Chris Keys, Innocent Country 2. Chez Noir, Apollo Brown, As God Intended. What am I missing here? Gosh darn it. What am I missing here? I'm missing something. So, Dueling Expert? Nope.
Let me get mine.
Dueling Experts, Innocent Country, Take Your Time, Milestones. Yeah, that's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 5. Okay.
So I'm just getting
Numbers, man.
Okay. So we're starting with our worst, or I'll
Yep.
say, I
Worst.
wouldn't even say worst. It's my least favorite.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to go. Okay. I'm gonna go with the Dueling Swords was my least favorite.
Dueling Experts. Mm-hmm.
Dueling Experts. Yeah, Dueling Experts.
Yep.
What I'll say is there were no particular moments that like stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
One of the rappers sounded a lot like Game, so I couldn't get that out of my mind as well.
Wow. That's awesome.
But and as I said, I don't think it's a bad album.
No.
It just was my least. It was just my least favorite of the five.
And when it came out, I remember going, "This is solid. I dig this.
Yeah.
Like I can spin this. Like I bought it when there was, for anybody who didn't know, Mello Music just concluded a $4.99 sale on Bandcamp, where everything in their catalog was $4.99. So I bought a lot of these albums. And Dueling Experts, I had no problem buying. It is, I mean, there's no way around it. It's knockoff Wu-Tang Clan. I mean,
Yes.
Wu-Tang Clan is vitally important to my generation, and there's a Zilla Rocca song called "Wu-Tang Clan Are My Beatles," and he's not wrong. And there are a lot of people's Beatles, and so people live in that long shadow. But they didn't really have hooks on this. It didn't really break up from song to song. It's not really, but I mean, they're not bad. They're good.
No.
They're good.
And I liked the kung fu skits. Like those were and this is gonna sound bad, but those were the most entertaining parts of the album for me. And I don't mean that as a knock on the group, but the kung fu skits and interludes were my favorite part of the album.
Yeah, as much guff as Ka gets for keeping a steady monotone and being the new Jizza, he does give you stuff like I Love Mom Kev and that stuff. He does give you like kind of these weird rants at the end of songs where he'll just talk about things that mean something to him.
Yeah,
he gives you personal.
I mean,
raps.
And he's a much better. I mean, for me, he's like a top 10 lyricist. So Ka can get away with things that other rappers can't get away with, just solely based on his ability.
But I'm saying even he personalizes it, breaks it up, finds a way to get outside of the I'm going to rip this mic structure.
Mm-hmm.
And Verbal Kent especially feels like one of those great kind of mid-card fighters.
Yeah.
Who always is throwing lots of punches, making you work for it. But I'm not sure that he's going to break into an album that is cohesive, that's interesting. I think his skill sets are diametrically opposed to someone else on this list, and I'll get back to that. My pick for the worst of this list, for the least great of this list, is Black Soul, Take Your Time.
Yeah.
That's the one of these I didn't buy. I couldn't justify even for $5 buying it. I was very interested in the fact that they got it. This is apparently somebody who wrote for a bunch of artists and wanted to break out on their own, and this was to build the kind of R&B arm of the deal. But what did you think about it? I was definitely wondering how you would handle it.
That was my 4, and that's why at the beginning I was like kind of conflicted about which one I didn't like the most. But I think for this Black Soul, which I had number 4, there were a few musical moments on the album that like I liked, that I enjoyed. I mean, there were a few cringeworthy moments that sounded like typical R&B, but for the most part, I mean, it was okay. It was solid R&B, and then was sprinkled in with some great musical moments. So that's why I had to elevate it to 4 above the other album. But it was just solid. I'm not gonna say it was above average. It was solid. It was just a solid R&B album.
I mean, it's. I mean, the writing isn't good.
No,
right?
agreed.
There's a lot of songs about the wetness of the vagina. And
Yes.
how many of those do you need from the guy who doesn't have the vagina? How many of those do you need? There's a song that's just called Wet. It's just like,
yeah.
It's just really is rough.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I know it says on the page that it's like a, what is it supposed to be? It's a new jet. What do they call it? Neo soul album. It's supposed to be a neo soul album.
No.
I think it's like one of those. He's one of those Trey Songz guys pretending to make a neo soul album.
That's fair.
The production is sleepy and boring, like one of those listless, albums from that run.
Yeah.
But the songs aren't at all earthy, organic, and like fun, like wholesome. Like even the sex stuff on that run, Music Soul Child stuff like that was good sex. It was like positive sex.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't crass. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it wasn't. I mean, yeah. Now that you remind me of the Wet song, yeah, that I probably have to move that down to number 5 now, because that song was that was the song I was just, and he did it multiple times. Like he used that. I don't even know what you want to call it. The wet concept. He used that multiple times throughout the album. So I mean.
And the weird part is that, and this is, I think, one of the reasons to bring him along is that he's really good with other people. I really like the song with Joel Ortiz, Help. I really like the song Act Out with Nana. When he's with somebody, the collaboration starts working. And because this is obviously a guy who's used to working with people and functioning around different visions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to create your own persona once you haven't been doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's tricky, and it was my least favorite for sure. What was your next? What was 3 for you?
3 was Innocent Country 2.
Oh.
Yeah, and I feel like it's in a tier of its own. So there's 3 tiers. So my top 2 are in a tier. The third one is in its own tier, and then the bottom 2, 4 and 5, are in their own tier. This was Innocent Country 2 was like the middle tier for me.
Yep.
It was compared rap wise to selection number 5. This was a lot better for me. And I liked the, like, not only did I like the lyricism, but I also liked the instrumentation. Felt a little bit more musical to me, a little bit more lively. So that's why I added number 3.
And so Kelly Chris is who I would say has diametrically opposed skills to Verbal Kent
Hmm.
from Dueling Experts. Is instead of being this kind of talented mid carder who's active throwing punches and a tough test for the great fighters, he's full of energy, he's full of personality, he's funny, he's weird. Everything he's doing is kind of unexpected,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have any standout lyrics. There's
Hmm.
no bars I can repeat to you that popped out for me.
Right.
Like you can do that with Verbal Kent. He can give you lines like, "Oh, Chris doesn't do that," but
Yes.
the songs conceptually are fantastic,
Right. The vision.
and every hook is ill. Every hook is wonderful. So like, what is it? The one I was thinking of. This is the one I was listening to when before one of these talks. Grease from the Elbows
Hmm.
with Pink Sifu and Billy Woods not rapping, but talking to a lady on the phone at the end and laughing. Do you remember this?
Yes.
When he's like, "You know who Kelly Chris is," and she's like, "That's some old made up nonsense." And he just laughs. He says, "You're missing out." Like, leave it to Kelly Chris to be the guy who can have Billy Woods laughing on his album. Like, that's amazing. He is the character, dude.
Yeah. I agree.
But it's one of those, like, watching The Last Dance. I hate Phil Jackson. Uh, I don't. I've always had this Phil Jackson is just on the right teams at the right times, like a star player jumping from the right teams at the right times. But watching The Last Dance, I begrudgingly had to give him his props.
Yeah.
Some people are not brilliant because of the plays that they draw up, but it's because they can keep the room together. They can keep everyone united.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's not an accident that all these songs are great.
Right.
It's not an accident that all the hooks slap, that all the concepts are ill. I have Mirage as one of my best songs of the year. Uh, the collaboration with Earl Sweatshirt and Denmark
Okay.
Vesey and Meryl Gabris and Big Sen at the end doing spoken word, 7 minutes long.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the difference. That's why I had to put that at number 3. That's the difference between the two albums. Uh, now I'm starting to rethink. No, I mean, no, number 3 is good for it. Yeah.
I mean, I will tell you, full disclosure, I had Innocent Country 2, number 2. I have it pretty high on my year
Yeah.
end, my not year end album of the year list, just because of a. There's also a thing where it's really hard to do a positive rap album, a fun rap album.
Right.
It really is. It's like
Yeah, I agree.
I had a teacher who said it's incredibly hard to write a happy poem. And
Yeah.
it was a good point. And I think
Yeah. That's an
it's
excellent point.
incredibly hard to make a joyful rap album. Some people have missed that with Innocent Country too. Pitchfork gave it like a kind of a tepid thing and was like, There's too much jokey stuff on there. You should have had Mac Hame do some hardcore stuff in the middle. No, man, it's special that this is fun. That it's fun to be in this world with this music.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had uh milestones 3. Do you have a 2? Or do you have a 1?
So I'll go with number 2, and I really battled with this one, but I had As God Intended.
Oh wow, that 2.
Yeah, but here's the thing: because the reason why I battled with it so much was because Shay Noir, hands down, is the most of the five artists that I listen to of these 5 albums. I can unequivocally say she's the most talented to me. Bar for bar, best lyricist.
Sure.
So of the 5 artists or groups or whatever, she's the most talented for me. Yep. Without a doubt. But I think what knocked it down to 2 was it was just too much of a good thing. It was a little bit. I mean, she gave you bars. I mean, I gotta give her props. She gave you bars for 13 songs, 14 songs, straight bars. Great. But it was a little bit, the content and the subject matter was a little bit all over the place in a way. So when I left at the end of the album, like I wasn't left with as strong as impression as I was with the first album. So for me, I knocked her down because of the focus. But as I said, I'm not going to deny she's the most talented. I mean, I was wonderfully surprised. She's the most talented artist of the 5.
So, and I'm a Sky Zoo guy. I'm a Sky Zoo believer all the way. I've been rocking Sky Zoo for years.
Yeah.
But I didn't love this album when I first heard it. I was on the fence about it. But what brought me back in is the first verse of the song 10.
Ooh, great song.
So
interesting.
Let me just do this verse.
Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's a great verse. My man used to sling to his mother, took a couple dollars off so she'd think he don't love her. I said, damn, son, your pops don't care. He said, son, I don't know. My father been in and out of Rikers since I was 9 years old. He passed me the L and then continued to bag snow. I pictured myself in his shoes and took a drag slow. His mother came in the room with 7 singles. He gave her a bag of stones. Her face said, heaven sent you. I was 14, known as a mixture of straight scheming and debate teaming, a tug of war to break me even. I was weaving through what was intended and what was given, where it's easy to jump in the rhythm and fuck with the vision. Been forever since we kicked it. Last thing I heard is he was bidden. They got him infinity number dripping. The juxtaposition of what the allure be, they placed him with his pops. So now gets to tell his father the story.
Ooh.
I mean, what used to happen with Sky Zoo was he would get interviewed by someplace like Hip Hop DX, right? And they'd be like, "This song is great. It's about this, right?" And he'd be like, "No, you missed it. There's this level on it. There's this level on it. There's this level on it." And he'd break it down, and they'd be like, "Wow, I didn't even know that." Like, he's just a weird dude, man. He is in his own head a lot, as you know from listening to this album. What he's gotten better at explaining what's in his head, though.
But
this album is much better at explaining what's in his head, at explaining his point.
Yeah.
Um, and at first, I was uncomfortable with the album because songs like "At Least I Got One," motherfucker, where I was like, and part of this is my fault. Black fatherhood has become a political football, right?
Mm,
I don't think that's controversial to say.
okay.
You know, every Father's Day, somebody will stand up and start talking about black fathers and how there needs to be more of them or whatever, right?
Right.
Um, and 9 times out of 10, there are people who shouldn't be saying shit about it. But
Okay.
it took me a while, but he explained it, and it became apparent that this is just his perspective. You know, on Duly Noted, he says, "So this is about me doing the same, me knowing that if I can do for mine what was done for me, then I can sleep comfortably because nothing won't be able to undo what I done did, and same as it was for me."
Yeah.
So this is about his journey. He says in this, I'm not trying to knock anybody who's without it.
Right.
I'm just trying to tell you what this meant to me and what it has meant for me on the other side.
Yes.
Uh, so I was like, okay, I got more comfortable with
Yeah. I mean, I just think it was focused, and the theme for there was a theme or thesis that he stuck to throughout the album or EP or whatever you want to call it. So when I was done with the last song, like I was left with a clear impression of what this artist was trying to say. Whether you agree with it or not, I mean that's not really the point. The point is that the artist connected with you, that you're having that discussion, or in making you question, or making you like look when you listen to the song 10, or At Least I Got One. I mean, like it's challenges you in a way. And all of the songs, because all the songs are pretty much around the same theme, like I was able to focus on that throughout the album.
Yeah, man. I mean, both of them are really good. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say if you're gonna do the reading test, oh, the Chez Noir reading test is something else.
Agreed. Yeah.
So Chez Noir, I break these into two sections here: the Hard as Nails section and the Everything is Personal section.
Mm.
From the Hard as Nails perspective, she gives you some real Buffalo bars, man.
Yeah.
Worth gold, she says, "What's a flood to a fish? What's a gun to a fist? I keep a blade that I use just to cut the tongue out of a snitch."
Yeah.
On Blood is Thicker, she says, "I know you consider me your home, your family for life, but I betrayed you, left you scarred and damaged for life. I took a childhood from you and murdered your friends. If blood thicker than water, you better learn how to swim."
Swim. Woof. Yeah.
Uh, Hustle Don't Give. Boy, I mean, these are just amazing. Wise and
Absolutely.
intelligent, I could rob a village while it's asleep, even if I was blind with an elephant. Crazy. That is like bragging, real bragging. It's a jungle that's controlled by the sirens, but the hunter gonna be the hero until the story's told by the lion.
Mm.
There are moments like that, but the hunter gonna be the hero until the story is told by the lion. Man, that's almost like J Blueprint shit, where it's this amazing, thoughtful statement in this bar, you know?
Okay. Okay.
And you can pick it apart and come back to it and just be like, damn. Uh, the strength of As God Intended And to me, it's number one. It's without a doubt. It's one of my favorite albums of the year.
Right.
Like top 10 already. But because everything on it feels personal, even the hardcore stuff. Uh, Follow the wisdom. She says, "Paint on the streets. It ain't worth seeing your daughters crying. I was that daughter, so you'll never hear me glorifying it."
See, and what I'll say is a lot of it's personal, but there's also, I felt like it's disorienting because she would go, like some of the songs would be like micro level, like personal, and then macro level. Like she would
Oh
talk
yeah,
about like her personal life, and then she would zoom out and speak specifically about a condition facing her community.
but I think the end of the album does a real good job of just getting to that place. I mean, Winter is just dead serious. I mean, Winter is a real thing. I want to know, but my self-esteem can't handle the truth. I should have been done with your ass. It's a lot of fish in the sea. You see, your sex just brings out the contradiction in me. Now sitting looking stupid, waiting for your call. I guess I'll settle for some of your attention instead of none at all.
Yeah,
I mean, beautiful stuff.
absolutely. But it just felt like there were multiple albums in this one album to
Oh
me.
God! I mean,
Even that what's the song where she talks about she went to the club with her girlfriend, and then
oh, you remember 12 Hours? Is that what you're talking
12
about?
hours. Yes, 12 hours. Like 12 hours, and here's I mean, it sums up how I feel about the album. Like 12 hours, lyrically great, excellent storytelling,
Yep.
phenomenal twist ending as well. Like I was like on the edge because I was trying to figure out where exactly this was going to go. But at the same time, it didn't fit the tone of the album to me. There was just too much.
Yeah, no. And I specifically didn't pull any lyrics for 12 Hours because you just need to listen to it front to
Yeah,
back experience, right?
absolutely.
Um, she says she wrote one verse a day on that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Did one verse that day, the next verse the next day, so that it would be clean, clear, consistent, and it's amazing. Um, yeah,
And, and and you know what it is? I think now that we talk about it, I think I held her to like a different standard. So I'm not comparing her to Sky Zoo. I'm comparing her to what I think her full potential is.
right. And that's the thing is like Sky Zoo's been in this game 1,000 years, dude,
Mm-hmm.
and has made his bones already. His
Right.
persona is fully formed, right?
Right.
And she's put out albums. She's got stuff, but it's with 38 Special, and it's like kind of Buffalo mixtape stuff, right?
Right.
The first time she linked up with Apollo Brown, and Apollo wanted to push her to go to the next level. I mean, on something like Daddy's Girl, you wouldn't have
Yeah.
found other projects, man. Uh, Daddy's Girl, she says, "Look, the older I get, the more I find it harder to date as I deal with men and make them suffer from my father's mistakes.
Yeah.
You was facing life and biz. I was wearing diapers then, back when Granny took us all to church, teaching Christ and sin. Truth be told, you'll never make up for all that time you missed. Life's a bitch."
Oh, I, I mean, yeah. She's got it. You know what I mean? She's got it. And the funny thing is, like, I could see this ending up on my top 20 albums of the year. Absolutely. Sky Zoo probably won't. But it's just, as I said, I'm looking at it as the focus, the vision, the focus, I should say, for the album was just, it wasn't there for me. And it was just disorienting for me.
So you probably you you know, you look at it from the perspective of like an 8-year player who scored 17 points his whole career, and
Hmm.
he's still scoring 17 points, right?
Right.
Solid, but it doesn't look like there's a lot more, right?
Right.
Versus a rookie who's making sloppy mistakes on the court and is still scoring 17 points.
Yeah. It's a great metaphor.
And you're,
Absolutely.
and you're seeing, like, you're like, oh my God, what's she going to be like next?
Yeah.
And she
Yep.
wouldn't have had the opportunity to grow if not for being with Mello Music Group, given the full green light. Now she's in the spotlight, her own spotlight,
Yep.
and a lot of people are repping this album. It is lyrical.
I mean, the fact that she was able to get a Black Thought feature, that tells you if he co-signs you, you're legit.
And if you go to Genius and read her part of that song, that like, but the hunter gonna be the hero until the story is told by the lion. That's from that song.
Mm.
She spits.
Yeah.
Like, she did not lose that. Like, uh, she's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Her talent is really next level, and I think it's exactly the kind of album that'll grow for you as you re-listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's but yet raw talent all over the place. Apollo Brown, great samples, great
Yep.
tight loops, great drums, just
Yep.
a very pleasant.
You can tell they've got chemistry together
Mhm.
for sure. And I think, the next album that they do, I'm sure they'll tighten it up, because it's like you were talking about. You could tell what I did appreciate about it is you could tell that she cared about this album and she wanted to give her best shot. So she unloaded everything, and she had so much going through her mind. She wanted to unload all of that.
You might look back at As God Intended as her like as her reasonable doubt. Basically, that it's never gonna get as densely lyrical as this again.
Right.
That she might
Right.
be more polished, more
Yes.
songwritery as it goes on, bigger features or whatever as the spotlight comes to her. This is the one you're gonna point to and go, dude, there's
Yeah.
so much on that.
And I think it will appreciate once we have more albums to compare it to. I think it'll get better with time.
I mean, just compare her against, like, what I noticed the most is I wasn't comparing her to any woman in the market
Right.
right off the rip.
Right.
There's no putting she's not like Rhapsody because she's bone chillingly hardcore in
Yeah.
the sense that Rhapsody's never scared me like that. And she's not like in this kind of Meg the Stallion, Doja Cat glam lane.
No.
Not her deal. Not her deal at all. And there's just nobody. I mean, she's totally different, and it's personal, but it's hardcore at the same time.
Yeah.
It's sneaky thoughtful. I really like that album,
Yeah.
and I like Milestones as well. I mean, Sky Zoo is great. Um, yeah, but it's been a great year so far.
Yeah.
For Mellow Music. The the personal story I was going to tell you is I bought As God Intended on Bandcamp, and it says $8.99 minimum, right? I put it in. I got my confirmation number, and I put the decimal in the wrong place.
What, 89, 99?
800.
800?
I was alarmed, and
Yeah.
Like, I emailed Bandcamp, I emailed Mello Music Group, and was like, please help, you know? And I'll tell you, I got an email back the next day from Mello Music.
Oh,
We're on this. We've alerted Bandcamp, and they emailed me like every 2 days after until it was taken care of.
yeah.
They were always in touch. They were always empathetic. They never tried to mess with me about it. Like, they totally could have just said, "You're bad, dude. You messed this up."
Not even call or not even return your call. Yeah. Or email, I should say. Yeah.
But they never were going to do that. They were 100% like, "We're going to help you on this. We're going to take care of this." And they did. And Bandcamp did.
Yeah.
And within like less than a week, it was taken care of.
Right.
It was money was back in the account. Like, um, I respected that. I mean, that's the kind of business it is,
Right.
you know. Um, yeah. So it's good, and I admire it, and I think a lot of people could learn from it to just streamline what you're doing and make smart decisions.
Yeah. I mean, the emphasis should be on the emphasis should be on the craft, on the quality of what you're producing. And Mel Music, that the emphasis for them is on the quality of the music. And I don't mean, what I mean is like the production, like even though all the albums were different, the production on all of them was crisp, musical, and excellent production. So I knew that I could hear the care and time and craft that was put into the production.
Yep.
And then you look at the artwork as well. And I remember the Forbes article you sent over. He mentioned, you know, the importance of having like an interesting cover. And all of the cover, like if you look at all the covers, I mean, they're all excellent covers for albums.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's clean in every aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
The artwork is clean. Uh, the nothing. There's no clutter.
Right.
The production is clean. It's all good.
Yeah.
I wanted to give some love here. My recommendation of the week, recommendation corner. Pull it up here. I told you about Shrapnel, the
Yes.
album with Curly Castro and Prem Rock, and it's gotten me deep into their back catalogs. And this really hit my sweet spot. I really think Prem Rock has kind of an addictive, slick flow of wordplay. And this is a tribute album to Tom Waits.
Wow.
And some of them, like Christmas Card from a Hooker in Prague, is a remake, a direct conceptual remake of Christmas Card from a Hooker with the Tom Waits did. Sometimes he takes elements of the beats, sometimes he takes parts of the hook, but most of it is just him like spitting as well as he usually does, but with the Tom Waits production and pieces of his voice in there, and lyrics that really reflect a Tom Waits state of mind. The things he has in common with Tom Waits. It's really hard to do one of those albums well.
Right.
I've heard a lot of ode to Jay-Z albums that are just people doing shitty versions of great songs. This isn't that. This is a hip hop version. This is him taking what he loved about Tom Waits, putting it into what he does well, and never stepping out of his lane. I think it's from 2013. 2013? 2012. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's super excellent. It's a name your own price thing on Bandcamp. So um, check it out, man. Mark's Wild Years. I really dig it. Really dig it.
Okay.
Any recommendations from you?
No, man.
All right. You watch the 76ers, cut down on the turnovers. I'm looking at everybody.